welcome to Cover Story. I am Priya Sehgal, and in this, our weekly show, we will be looking at the big story that has dominated the political grammar of the week. In addition, we will also be talking to a leading political personality. This week, we shall be talking to a young and promising union minister. And we shall also be looking at how the question of who is running the government, Sonia Gandhi or Manmohan Singh, once again took center stage. But first, as the Congress gets ready to celebrate 9 years of government, I met with the union minister who, as a key member of Team Rahul, is poised to play a crucial role in the future of the Congress. At a time when the Congress is set to celebrate 9 years of government, we have with us one of the bright new young faces of this government. I will be talking to Minister of State for Home, Ratanjit Pratap Narayan Singh. But before we talk to him, a word about RPN Singh. He's been a 3-time MLA. He's also been the president of the Youth Congress in Uttar Pradesh. He has handled 4 portfolios at the center, out of which one of his most important has been the Home Ministry. I think the Home Ministry has been his most crucial test. He came in at a time when the anti-rape protests hit the streets, and he actually came out on the streets. He was one of the most visible faces of the government. He talked to the young protesters and established some sort of an empathy with them. Hello and welcome to a whole new episode of Cover Story. As UPA 2 completes its 4th year in office, we shall be looking at the diminishing stature of Prime Minister Manmohan Singh as the big story of the week. But first, the interview of the week, where I caught up with Kamal Nath, Parliamentary Affairs Minister and UPA's Chief Troubleshooter. In fact, this turned out to be his most candid and I would say perhaps the longest interview he's given in recent times. Because as we all know, it's very difficult to pin down the ever-elusive Kamal Nath. Have a look. Today we talk to a man who arguably holds the most important job in today's government, the Parliamentary Affairs Minister, Kamal Nath. But before I talk to him, a word about the man himself. He's an organizational man, he's risen from the grassroots. He's an 8-term MP who spent 33 years in politics, held over 6 cabinet portfolios. He's worked closely both with Sanjay and Rajiv Gandhi. And now when the time came to find a man to fill Pranab Mukherjee's shoes, the Congress found one in Kamal Nath. You could say he's filling Pranab Mukherjee's place, both with a great deal of flair and a lot of competence. Mr. Nath, your toughest test is ahead is the next Parliament session. So Sushma Swaraj has said she will not be talking to you or the Speaker or the Congress. How are you going to manage that?
Well, it's for her to decide how she wants to conduct herself. And Parliament does not belong to the Congress party or to the government. Parliament belongs to every political party and every member of Parliament. So one person standing up and saying that I'll frustrate Parliament, I really don't think works. So we'll see when we come to it.
But it could be argued that you could have had the resignations of those 2 ministers earlier and then Parliament could have functioned smoothly.
Well, I think demanding a resignation, I offered to have a discussion on the floor of the House.
Right.
The BJP wants to stand outside Parliament, wants to go to the TV studios and make comments. They can make those same points with Parliament running. What is the point they made which cannot be made in a discussion or debate in Parliament? So first, you say no discussion, no debate. We'll stand outside and say what we want to say. And I'm saying, whatever you're saying, please say it on the floor of the House. You can demand the resignation on the floor of the House. And you can make all your points in a discussion and debate of any kind.
But they wanted the Prime Minister to answer on 2G. The Prime Minister did not answer. They are saying the Congress offers no explanations, no resignations. So how do we carry on like this?
How can a government operate where any political party says, we will only let Parliament function if so-and-so resigns? This is not the way where parliamentary democracy can work. And there has to be a discussion, there has to be a debate. Unless that takes place, the sporadic points being made where government cannot respond. On the floor of the House, government can respond. But they'll go stand outside, give bites, and, say and run. This say and run politics is not parliamentary democracy.
But they are arguing, Sushma Swaraj and even Harsimrat Badal in an interview to me said that Sonia doesn't let them speak in Parliament. The Congress doesn't let them speak. They are alleging the other way around.
I think it's absolutely wrong. They will want to have their say, not allow the government to respond, and then they started with not having their say on the floor of the House. We'll have our say in the studios and outside Parliament, and that's it. Now, this is not the way parliamentary democracy should function.
But you had a good beginning. You hit the ground running. You had the retail bill, FDI and retail. That was a very difficult bill to pass, but you managed that.
Well, there is, you see, I think there is a sense of frustration in the BJP. Their own internal politics. Because somebody says that has one opinion in the BJP, another one has another opinion.
The BJP is divided, you're saying?
The BJP is divided, and is there frustration coming out? Is there frustration coming out? And this is nothing but that.
How did you manage that bill? It was overnight, I remember the retail bill. Overnight the BSP turned stand, did a U-turn, came out in support. It is said that actually you met Satish Mishra at night and Mayawati and convinced them. What exactly happened?
Well, I'm engaging with all political parties, telling them our point of view. Now, unless there's something seriously wrong with what I'm saying, why should they not let something happen? Because the biggest fear on retail was the fear of the unknown. And I said that once we are empowering the states, it is for the states to monitor it, and the states did not allow it. But how can you not empower a state? The retail FDI policy only empowered the states, entitled the states, enabled the states to allow it.
So there was no quid pro quo between you and...
There was no quid pro quo.
There was nothing that you assured them.
I don't think it works that way. And even with the Samajwadi Party, when we explained to them, they said we don't know whether it's good or bad. So I said, if you don't know whether it's good or bad, well, you should support it and see in your own state whether you want to have it or not have it. It's for them to decide. And in fact, they say we should be empowered. Now I'm empowering them. And then they said, no, don't empower us. This is a strange thing.
Well, your negotiating skills worked over there. How are you going to now manage your next big challenge, the food security and land acquisition bills?
Well, again, the food security bill is a bill which impacts 65% of the people of this country. It's legislation for the people of this country. The land acquisition bill, which it's going to replace a bill of 1896 or something like that, is again for the people. It brings them justice. All political parties should support it. It's been to the standing committee.
Should, but
I had an all-party meeting on the land acquisition bill, and we arrived at a consensus. So there's nothing where there's any combativeness in this.
But why the opposition? They are not in a mood to pass it there.
Because they feel that the Congress or the government may get credit for it. And if that is their approach, they don't want the government to get credit for anything, well, then that's the politics which the people of this country will understand.
Are you going to pass this through an ordinance? Is that the plan?
Well, we have considered that. The Cabinet has not discussed it. Once Cabinet discusses it, then only will a decision be taken.
Okay, moving on to the Congress party. There has been a lot of discussion as to who would be the face of the Congress in 2014. Who do you think should lead the Congress?
Well, Mrs. Sonia Gandhi is the president of the party. Rahul Gandhi is the vice president of the party. Of course, these are the two faces. Then there's Dr. Manmohan Singh, who is the prime minister. So it will be these three faces which the people of this country will be looking at. That was so in 2009, and what was so in 2009 will be in 2014.
So the Prime Minister will be who? Who will be portrayed as the Prime Minister? Or will that be decided after?
Well, I think Mr. Rahul Gandhi has to take a decision. The Prime Minister has himself said that he thinks younger people should take over. But so I don't think there is any confusion in this. We will be going into the elections just the way we went into the elections in 2009.
The Congress recently celebrated its 4th anniversary of UPA 2. But the celebrations were marred by criticism of the Prime Minister. Has he become a liability?
Certainly not. The BJP has nothing to criticize. They are diverting attention from their Modis and from their Nitin Gadkaris and all that. So it's a deep sense of frustration. We must remember the BJP has lost 2 states, Uttaranchal and Karnataka, in the recently held state elections. And they are trumpeting themselves as an alternative. Whenever they trumpet themselves as an alternative, they are sent back home by the people.
But Ravi Shankar Prasad recently told me that Congress has had its last smile. Now from the next round of assembly elections, they're not going to win any of them.
Well, he can say anything. They said that in Karnataka, they said that all the time. That's their style. And I think that it doesn't deserve a comment. But they'll talk of governance, they'll talk of misgovernance without knowing what governance is. They'll criticize the Prime Minister that he doesn't run the country. Then who runs it? Mr. Modi runs the country? It's absolutely ridiculous. They'll say there's a rift between Mrs. Sonia Gandhi and the Prime Minister. And I can say very emphatically, I've seen the government very closely. There is no rift. There's absolute consensus between Mrs. Gandhi and the Prime Minister.
But there is this whole talk, whenever there is a resignation, congressmen come and tell us that, Manmohan Singh didn't want Ashwini Kumar and Pawan Bansal to resign. It was Sonia who forced the hand. These stories are fed to us off the record. And later on, basically to distance Sonia from all that is wrong in government.
No, it's not that at all. There's always a question of timing. Some more information had to be collected. When the story broke out about the two ministers, government never had the full information. Neither did the Congress party have full information. As information rolled out, well, a view was being taken. Then there's the question of timing. Now the opposition is demanding it. You say, here, please have it. In the end, you do an appropriate thing. Now first you do it. Then you ask, why didn't you do it earlier? Then you ask, why didn't you do it 3 days earlier? You ask, why didn't you do it 2 days earlier? Instead of saying, well, you did the right thing. That is the politics they are playing.
But politics, a lot of it is perception and timing, you would agree. And Congress has lost a lot of it in delaying the resignations and being perception of being scam tainted. That is not sticking to the Prime Minister himself.
No, I don't think so. It is sticking in the media. It is a media hype which is being created.
But the court has also pulled up the PMO officials who went and fiddled with the report.
No, the court merely told the CBI that you should not have. But let's understand, the PMO officials had to give the records. They had to engage with the CBI as a part of their investigation. So what is wrong with the PMO officials engaging with the CBI?
But looking at the status report that is going to be submitted to the government?
Because they want to be sure that the facts they are saying is right. They're not changing the facts. They're not altering the facts. They're not hiding the facts. They are only ensuring the facts are correct.
But the court said the heart of the report has been changed.
I do not know the report, so I cannot comment on that. But I can say that it's in the court, and the courts have got all the versions, and it's for them to take a view. Up till now, they have not chastised the PMO or the law minister, the then law minister.
Okay, let's move on to where your heart is, Madhya Pradesh. Elections are coming. What is going to happen? Are you going to portray a chief ministerial candidate from the Congress side?
We have not yet decided, but I think we stand on very good ground in Madhya Pradesh, and I'm very hopeful that the Congress is going to return to power in Madhya Pradesh.
But isn't it better to go with the face? The whole problem is the Congress doesn't portray a face.
It has its pluses and its minuses. It has a plus side and a minus side. So let's see. The decision has not been taken on this, and I think we all are united. I must say this very emphatically. We all are united, and we will present a united face. Not one, maybe 3, 4 united faces to the people.
But too many faces, that can be a problem.
No, I don't think so. Elections in India have got very localized. Very localized. And at the local level, how they perceive the government to have functioned, how they perceive the BJP to have functioned is what's going to matter.
Okay, about Chhindwara, you hold a record of sorts, winning the same constituency 8 times running. But having said that, you also tend to favor your constituency. When you were road minister, it is said that a lot of the budget went to Madhya Pradesh, the central government's budget on roads.
Why not? If I can't do it for my constituency, if I can't do it for my state, how can I do it for the country? So I've said that on the floor of the House, that it is in the end going toward development. And if I feel that a particular district, maybe my own, deserves a better outlay, so be it. What is wrong with that?
Okay, can I move international now? You were also, as Commerce Minister, you were a chief negotiator at WTO, and you emerged as one of the leaders for the developing economies. How did you manage that? Was it, your own connections, or was it how you portrayed India? How did that happen?
Well, you have to understand everything. You got to have all your 10 fingers in it. And you have to say things and have arguments with credibility, reason and logic. And once you have that, then other countries also go by that reasoning. So I was able to create coalitions, of which India became a part, which could take positions because it's not a question of free trade, it's a question also of fair trade. And I was saying that we must have fair trade, just not free trade.
Okay, talking about your negotiating skills, I'm going to come back to India and the Parliament. How exactly, I mean, are you going to be calling an all-party meeting in the next few 2 months before the monsoon session? What are you...
Of course we'll have, I'll engage with all parties.
Are you having, you began this thing of not all-party meetings but holding individual discussions with...
Because every political party is in their own orbit. Mrs. Sushma Swaraj is not the leader of the opposition. She is the leader of the BJP. And you have all the other political parties who are in their own orbit, who are not engaging with each other. And everyone has different issues. Now, because they have different issues, you've got to engage with them separately.
Or else divide and rule. Is this
it's not divide and rule. They are in their own orbit. And they are not engaging with the other opposition parties. So you have to deal with them separately.
When you were made the Parliamentary Affairs Minister, when this was offered to you, what was your first reaction?
Well, it was never an offer. Well, I was just told. And I said that I'm not very enthusiastic about this. But then Mrs. Gandhi and the Prime Minister said that we think you're the right person for this job. And you must do it.
Have you regretted this move?
Well, I've not regretted it. It takes a lot of my time because my job is not only during the parliament session. It continues even after the parliament session.
Well, you haven't got any white hairs. I think you're giving the opposition
well.
Okay, also talking about your experience in grey hair, you've been working with Sanjay Gandhi, with Rajiv Gandhi. You know, can you compare the transition and where do you see Rahul? Does he have more of Sanjay, more of Rajiv Gandhi?
They were leaders at different points of time. The India of Sanjay Gandhi was very different. The India of Mrs. Indira Gandhi was very different. The India of Rajiv Gandhi was very different. And the India of Rahul Gandhi is very different. I mean, in a basic way, today is the India of cell phones. Today is the India of 1,000 channels. In Sanjay Gandhi's time, aspirations were different. Mrs. Gandhi's time, the aspirations were different. In Rajiv Gandhi's time, we were at crossroads of where the country is going to go. And he steered the country, gave it a vision. In Rahul Gandhi's time, it's a different. We are already on a course. So, making comparisons are different. You can make comparisons for things at the same point of time, not at different points of time.
That's true, but you can see some of the, some would say that Sanjay Gandhi was known for his, for the practical reality, while Rajiv Gandhi was more of a visionary.
Well, Rahul Gandhi is very practical. He is very practical, and I think I give him a lot of credit, and I have admiration that he's understood things and the political intricacies which people take many years to understand.
As in, he's...
Of how the system works, of how the people respond, what are the aspirations of the people at the present times, what are the things in the party which will make it strong and which are making it weak.
But some would say he's also making a mistake by waiting too long. You know, we have two models. One is Akhilesh Yadav, who jumped in too soon. Then we have Rahul Gandhi, who's waiting too long. Which one do you think really works?
Well, either one can work. Rahul has his own style, right? And Rahul has age on his side. So, his greatest advantage is time. And Akhilesh thought that's the right time. He had his father to guide him. So he thought that his father would be able to guide him. So maybe that is right. Rahul, it's a different approach.
And how do you see the, I'm going to end on, how do you see the next government coming up? Because everybody is talking of a hung parliament. So once again, I think your skills would be needed.
In 2004, before the 2004 elections, everybody said that the BJP is going to come back. Yeah. Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee had a 68% rating. But you must remember, all these ratings don't translate into votes, and votes don't translate into seats. That's the big difference. And I see a Congress government coming back.
But don't you think the Congress with these advertisements is making the same mistake as India Shining? I mean,
No. I think with the kind of misinformation, the kind of diabolical propaganda by the BJP, this is what's very important for the Congress to do.
What has been your favorite ministry on a personal note? Which one have you enjoyed the most?
Well, for me, I enjoy every ministry. I enjoyed every job I've had, because if you go about it with the honesty of purpose, you will enjoy it.
But where can you make the most of difference? Where have you been able to do the most?
Well, I don't want to say I made a difference everywhere. That's for the people to decide.
Okay. On that note, we'll end this conversation. Thank you for talking to NewsX, Mr. Kamal Nath. Dr. Manmohan Singh's 9 years in office has seen the most comprehensive erosion of a legacy. When Dr. Singh first took office, he brought along with him two things: his reputation as an economist and his image as Mr. Clean. But with rising inflation, price hike and allegations of scam reaching the PM's door, that legacy is in tatters. As the Congress-led UPA 2 celebrated its 4th year in office this week, it was not accolades but sharp criticism that greeted the government. The opposition took potshots at the Prime Minister, both on corruption and non-performance. As a result, the celebrations were more defensive than laudatory, with both the Congress and allies launching a Save Manmohan campaign.
The Prime Minister is carrying out his responsibilities with great dignity in the face of unrelenting hostility and abuse from the opposition. We respect him and we all stand by him.
I think everybody's being too harsh to the Prime Minister. He's a good man, and I think means well always, and I'm progressive. So I think, I'm sure people will not judge him so harshly.
पूरे देश को ये बात मालूम है कि भाजपा के लिए पिछले 9 वर्ष में जो अंगूर हैं वो खट्टे रहे हैं, पर उसका इस तरह से प्रदर्शन करना शायद राजनीति की जो निचाइयां हैं उसको भी आज भारतीय जनता पार्टी पार कर गई है.
The erosion of Dr. Singh's credibility began with UPA 2. Ironically, this was the time when the Congress got its most decisive mandate in 3 decades. As the sitting Prime Minister, Dr. Singh was one of the architects of the 2009 win. But unfortunately, this is also when the downslide began. UPA 2's stint began with the court questioning the PM's role in the 2G scam. Later, the PMO was pulled up for the appointment of the tainted PJ Thomas as the CVC. This was followed by allegation of the PMO's dubious role in the Antris Graver scam, and now there is Colgate. And these are just scams that involve the PMO. As a result, the PM's reputation took a nosedive, both at home and in the international arena. Some would say that the latter has hurt the PM more, for the international arena has always been his primary vote bank. As aspersions began to be cast on the PM's reputation, the BJP stepped up its attack against him. On the 4th and last anniversary of UPA 2, it was the PM himself who bore the brunt of the opposition attack.
यूपीए में डॉक्टर मनमोहन सिंह प्राइम मिनिस्टर तो हैं, लेकिन लीडर नहीं है. और लीडर ना वो अपनी पार्टी के हैं और ना वो देश के हैं. और यूपीए का नेतृत्व बटा हुआ नेतृत्व है. यूपीए 1 में भी इतना भ्रष्टाचार नहीं हुआ था, लेकिन यूपीए 2 ने तो इंतहा कर दी. एक घोटाला थमता नहीं, दूसरा उजागर हो जाता है.
मुझे कोई दूसरा उदाहरण याद नहीं, किसी प्रधानमंत्री का याद नहीं, जब प्रधानमंत्री का पद हंसी और विनोद और व्यंग के कटाक्ष उसके ऊपर आए. इट बिकम्स द टारगेट ऑफ sarcasm and humor.
At the UPA anniversary celebrations, both Sonia and Rahul went out of their way to state their support for the PM. A grateful Manmohan made it a point to thank Sonia Gandhi for her support in his anniversary speech.
I would like to place on record our deep sense of gratitude to Chairperson UPA Srimati Sonia Gandhi ji, whose inspiring leadership has made these achievements possible.
Speaking to the media at the anniversary dinner, the Prime Minister quoted an Urdu couplet, "सितारों से आगे जहां और भी हैं," but he left out the next line, "अभी इश्क के इम्तिहान और भी हैं." But will the Congress continue to support him even after 2014? That surely will be the PM's most crucial imtihan. This week's headlines were dominated by scams in IPL instead of scams via politicians. I'm sure that must have come as a relief to some of our political leaders. Anyway, let's take a look at the IPL buzz on the social media. That is all for this week. Thank you for watching Cover Story and see you again next week.